From the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight. Continuing to break down the Broncos win over the San Francisco 49ers 11-10. We lean in also a bit on the Las Vegas Raiders. Big game coming up in the AFC West this weekend. And to help us with all that, the one and only Steve Atwater. What a bat.
What up, R. Edwards, Benjamin Allbright?
Hey. It's good to have you here, man.
Yeah, man. I got to get the energy. I got to match it.
Like it. Listen, man, speaking of energy, that stadium was rocking. There was a belief within that building in Power Field and Mile High, the Broncos were going to find a way to win that game. And for what it's worth, wasn't perfect all the way through, but the crowd was into it. The team won, and I guess you walk away with a big dub.
Oh, at the end of the day, that's what everyone wants. They want the dub. They want to be in it at the end of the season, and you can't get there unless you start early getting some dubs. And we've done that, stacked a couple of them in a row. Now we got to keep it rolling.
Undefeated at home. Let's keep stacking them and racking them. It's isn't like college football where you need style points, man. You just go out and get the W and move on to the next one, right?
But consistently winning at home. I mean, you want to get buy-in from your fan base, but one way or another, the offense is going to take a little bit longer than I think everybody hoped it would. But you want to build confidence in your fan base to know, hey, this team, they have each other's back. There's a great quote from Nathaniel Hackett in the press conference on Monday talking just about that. It's like, hey, X's and O's, everybody's out there running plays. But what you do, the extra stuff, the team stuff, that comes from believing in each other. I thought that was a cool point.
No, it is a great point. And, you know, if the guys don't have belief in each other, like, what do you really have? I mean, because every team has a bunch of, really good players on their team. Some teams don't have great players, but most teams have some really good players on their team. So, and when you add it all up, I think the difference is the guys who really care about each other and are not just playing for themselves, but they're playing for each other. I think they can go further than the rest of the guys.
It certainly, that showed in the locker room. That was the most cohesive, happy locker room I think I've seen in a while. And I've seen wins. We've seen wins, but that was the most cohesive locker. The guys were going over, compliment each other. The edge rushers were all up. Bradley Chubb was doing a media interview. Everybody came rushing up, was like heckling Chubb in a good way. You know, Justin Simmons is around encouraging everybody. Randy Gregory was, and Randy's kind of a reserved guy at times, but he was around, everybody was just out there, and it was, there's a belief in there. Like whatever's going on in the media and people talking about, the coach and being over their head and all this kind of stuff, that's not there in the locker room. You don't see that in the locker room. And I wanted to ask you as a former player, when media guys pick against the team, like Ryan Edwards did this past week, and pick San Francisco. And when guys like maybe Benjamin Allbright are sitting up talking to you before the game saying a guaranteed a Broncos win.
You did. Hey, man.
Do the players like see that stuff in media? And how do they respond when haters like Ryan sit there and say stuff like the Niners are just going to mop the floor with it or whatever it was he said?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think they paid that much attention to it, although it is quite disrespectful to, be in there interviewing the guys and like, yeah, they're going to lose.
Well, okay, all right. Listen, yeah, I know you're having some fun, and good for you, but in the end, that was one of those games where the 49ers, based on the way they were feeling about it, having Jimmy Garoppolo back, the fan base, I mean, everybody was kind of saying, well, actually, we have a known commodity at quarterback versus what we actually saw. What we actually saw was it looked like a backup playing in that game. That did not look like the starting caliber quarterback that Jimmy Garoppolo had been.
Oh, no, I agree 100%. And I thought that San Francisco would play better offensively, but guess what? They had to go against their defense. And our defense did a heck of a job, man. Josie Jewell, I got to give my hat off to him, man, because prior to the game, I was, Alexis and I, we were doing our pregame show, and I'm like, yeah, Jonas Griffey's going to have a great game. I hadn't even thought about the fact that Josie Jewell's back from his injury, Josie Jewell, but he was out there to prove a point. He was flying around out there.
Yeah, there was a Frito-Lay sitting on his shoulder right there because, man, that dude was he
oh my gosh.
Up for it. I was just gonna tell you, to be fair to you, like it wasn't just you that picked the Niners. Like look at the television broadcast. Everybody picked the Niners except Matt Berry. Yep. Like it was nobody that had the belief in the Broncos. They all thought.
I don't think you liked your chip reference.
I know he's rolled his eyes at my chip reference, but whatever. Like, do you want me to go Ruffles because it has the ridges? I think that.
Did we get a sponsor or something?
Yeah, hey, look, I'm trying. You guys want to sponsor this show? This is what we're doing right now. I think that. But that's the thing. Like Jimmy Garoppolo, you could tell Kyle Shanahan doesn't have faith in Jimmy Garoppolo. You can tell that. You can look at what's going on the field, and you could tell, not just by the play calls, but like what's going on. And we knew that before because we knew what they gave up to move on from him to try to get Trey Lance. And they backdoored their way into having Jimmy Garoppolo back there, and I think they all thought it was a great safety net. But at the end of the day, we see what Jimmy Garoppolo isn't. And that's capable of carrying a football team when things are going wrong against a great defense.
Yeah, but again, he is gifted the fact that he has a spectacular defense with the 49ers, and we'll kind of get into a little bit of that dynamic too. But yeah, I mean, it comes back to this game. what happened is the Broncos made enough plays. And in a game like that, when it's a defensive battle, and I'm sure you were in quite a few of those throughout the course of your career, when it's a defensive battle, when it comes down to a couple of different chance moments, right? They had 3 turnovers in the game. The Broncos still only won by 1 point. This was a razor-thin margin. And if the Broncos want to continue to win, they're going to have to fix some of the margins because, again, defense can keep playing well. Eventually, somebody's going to put up some points on you.
You know, obviously, the defense has played really well up to this point. Hopefully, they will continue to do that. But I imagine at some point in the season, hey, the defense is going to have to rely on the offense. The defense may give up. Well, they're going to give up some points. We know that's going to happen eventually. But the offense has to pick it up, and I think they will.
I mean, at this point, the Broncos are giving up 12 points per game. And you want to get a comparison of the Raiders coming up 25.7 points per game. So you certainly like being in those margins. But once again, you talk about the Broncos offense, they're 32nd in red zone right now, 14.3%, because they only got their first touchdown in the red zone just this last week. Now that stat has got nowhere to go but up. As far as I'm concerned, that's a stat that's going to improve. But again, some of the other defensive stats they're getting right now, those will come back a little bit, even if this defense remains one of the elite groups in the league. Is that fair?
Yeah, I definitely think so. But, it's easy for us to say that. And, it's easy for the guys to look at the film and say, oh, man, I did this wrong, I did that wrong. But guess what? They really got to put the work in and say, we got to improve in these areas. Otherwise, it'll be next game we're doing the same thing. Like, oh, man, I should have did this. I shouldn't have done that. You got to do it. You got to put in the work in practice, and then you got to come out there with that dog attitude. And, on game day, it's time to turn into somebody else.
I got the vibe that that's their attitude because we talked to Randy Gregory. And I posted him up. I gave him the alley-oop to say, I was like, hey, these might be the 2 best defenses in the NFL. The Niners and the Broncos, they might be the 2 best defenses in the NFL. It's premature to say that. We hadn't arrived yet. So they're grounded. They've got the right attitude, even though they're playing like that. They've got the right attitude as far as that goes, and I think that's an encouraging sign to me because I threw up the alley-oop for him to dunk it home, and he was like, nah, bro.
Yeah.
Well, it is. It's only 3 games in the season, and certainly they're going to face some more prolific offenses as the season wears on. Heck, against the Raiders coming up. This is a team that clearly, actually right now they average, 21 points per game. But again, you're going to get the Chiefs, you're going to get the Chargers, so on and so forth. The Jaguars even are a team that's scoring a lot of points right now. So they're going to be tested. The offense needs to catch up. What, in your opinion, based on what you've seen from the Broncos offense, do you think they can do in the short term to at least get some momentum? Because you got 9 3-and-outs, 10 punts. That's not sustainable.
Yeah, man, that's a good question, Ryan. They're trying everything. We're throwing quite a bit of short passes. We're not taking a ton of shots down the field. And we've seen some of the passes that Russ has thrown. They haven't necessarily been right there on the money. So I'm not sure if he's not confident in that deep throw or not. But I think it's going to come. The timing's going to come. They're going to be fine. But yeah, that's a good question, man. They're doing everything, right? They're throwing the short passes, they're throwing some intermediate passes, they're running the ball, they're throwing screens, they're doing everything they can. We just got to make the plays. We got to make better throws, and we got to catch the ball. We got to execute. Got to execute. And at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to.
One of the things I do like about this offense that probably goes a little bit unnoticed or unrecognized is their ability to convert 3rd and long. There isn't, like, historically when we've had quarterbacks in the past few years, you get to 3rd and long and it's like, well, should we maybe consider punting here because it's just not going to happen.
On 3rd down?
They get to 3rd. Yeah.
Well, running the draw and then punting. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean. Like, not.
They already got the punt potted up because we knew the 3rd down play wasn't going to work.
We're not doing foxball here. I'm talking about like, just getting what you can and playing field position the best you can. I'm talking more specifically as in, hey, man, you had 3rd and longs last few games. Russell Wilson, with his scrambling ability, with his ability to manipulate the pocket and buy time for guys, one thing that I have liked about the offense so far is their ability to work and scramble. Mm-hmm. And you saw Kendall Hinton come back to the ball for that 27-yard completion. That was a big-time play. And those are things that they've worked on this offseason that are coming together that the Broncos historically have not had over the last few years.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And, Russ, he can stretch those plays out, make the plays last longer with his legs. One thing I would like to see is just to make sure that the offensive linemen know that. And, the offensive linemen may get around them, but guess what? You got to turn around and go back and you can block someone else or even get a chip on your same guy again. I saw that a couple of times in the game where the defensive lineman would get around them and then the guy would just sit there and kind of watch. But you got to turn back around, get back into play. Don't stop until the whistle.
It's encouraging to see that guys aren't giving up on third down. We've seen that before. We've seen guys just give up on scramble drill or what quarterback breaks structure. We've seen them just kind of give up, just kind of stand there and watch the I want to say the play, but at that point it's really a disaster unfold.
Watch the sack.
Right, yeah. And so we've kind of seen that before, and the guys are trying to put themselves in places to become targets. Kendall Hinton is doing a great job of that. And he's filling in kind of the Tim Patrick role because Tim was so dynamite on third down that he's kind of trying to take over that role. I thought the best play, and you were talking about that one, I thought the best 3-play stretch was that Kendall Hinton pass, the rush scramble, and then the back shoulder to Cortland Sutton, to me, because that shows timing. That shows something else. You got to throw that ball before he's made his break coming back to the ball. That shows a trust in your receiver. That shows that you've got that timing down. I thought that was the most encouraging play to me going forward. It was like, okay, those two have it down. Now when does everybody else get it together?
Well, that is exactly right. It's the win with everybody else because Jerry Jeudy should be able to do those kinds of plays too. To a certain extent, Kendall Hinton. And then KJ Hamler. Still haven't really had a chance to see very much from him just yet. And I know he's still working his way back, but he's out there on the field. You'd like to see some of that chemistry work to some of the receivers because one of the promises, one of the thoughts we had about this offense coming into the season was, hey, now that you got Russell Wilson here, man, who are you going to cover, right? We talked about that all offseason. Who are you going to cover? You got all these different looks you can throw people. And so far it is whatever you get done in the run game, it's sometimes good, sometimes not great. And then Cortland Sutton. And that is the offense. And eventually, you're going to face a team that is going to shut down one or both of those things. And what is the next level for this team? And is it Russ using his legs more? Is it Russ buying time? I'm not exactly sure. It looks like they're bogged down right now with the details. I'd like to find a cleaner way for Russ to operate in the pocket and a cleaner way for Russ to operate the offense.
And I actually think they may have even just simplified the offense because when a new offense has been put in all during training camp, all during the offseason, and then game time comes, you gotta cut it down. You gotta say, these are the plays we're really going to go to, and I don't think they have everything in yet. Because they had everything in, I think we'd be seeing more big plays. I think once they get everything in to where they feel comfortable that they can call everything and people can remember, everyone can know their responsibilities. I think we're going to be much better. But I think it's limited. That's just me personally. I don't know that to be true, but I think that they're limited on the calls that they're making.
All right. Well, what I think all of us need, all of Broncos country needs, is one of those fire-up videos for the locker room. The ones you do in the big Jumbotron.
I got you.
Just start pounding your chest.
All right, cool.
Just walk into the locker room. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. All right. For Steve Atwater, Benjamin Allbright, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight.
Denver's going to win. You can stand up and salute in Denver, and you got the world champions that live in your town.